Futures Radio Show, sponsored by CME Group, the world's leading and most diverse futures and options exchange. CME Group's markets help individuals and businesses around the world effectively manage risk. For access to free educational tools and resources for the active individual trader, please visit activetrader.cmegroup.com.
Every day, traders and investors dive in to tackle the ever-changing markets to find opportunity. Futures Radio Show is your number one source for answers to the questions that all market participants want to ask. Veteran futures trader Anthony Crudele sits down with the most influential leaders and top traders in the industry. Now, here's your host, Anthony Crudele.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I know you're probably shocked to hear that I had a heart attack at the age of 36, but I can assure you, you weren't as shocked as I was. I'm sharing this story with you as this week marks my 20-year anniversary in becoming a member of CME Group and a full-time futures trader. In this same week, I am celebrating my 5-year anniversary of surviving a heart attack. It took me this long to share this with everyone, and I am fortunate to have a friend like Denise Shull and sponsors of Futures Radio Show, CME Group, Trading Technologies, RJO Futures, and Top Step Trader to help me share my story. So without further ado, let me take you right to my interview with Denise.
Anthony, 5 years ago, you had a wake-up call. Can you tell us what happened?
I was 36 years old and I had a heart attack.
What? Like, how is that possible? What happened?
I know, it just seems crazy. And it happened actually at my trading station where I was trading. It's actually started the day before. So to get into the whole story of how it kind of evolved over I would say like a 12-hour period. I was at my trading desk trading. It was a Thursday, February 27th. And I started to have, I felt like it was heartburn. Came home early. My wife's like, what are you doing home? It's weird that you're just all of a sudden you're home at this time, I was like, you know what? I just don't feel good. I took a Pepsid. It didn't help me. I'm going to lay down for a couple of hours. I wake up. It was middle of the day. And I said, you know what? It's not going away. Forget about it. I'm going back to work. I go back. I watch the close. Go home that night. Didn't stick to my normal routine. Wasn't really that hungry. Still uncomfortable. And it was just like, I thought it was my stomach because over the years, obviously in trading, you have stomach issues. I suffered with that for many years. Went to bed early. Looking back at it, I think to myself how crazy it is. I go to bed and I didn't realize it was actually in the midst of having a heart attack. And I woke up the next morning early. Because I went to bed really early. I don't remember exactly what time I woke up, but it was pretty early. I was at my desk again about 6:30. My desk is not at my house. Obviously it's at a different location. So at my desk, trading some crude oil, and all of a sudden the pain I feel it just like all of a sudden it's burning at the top of like my chest into my neck. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I'm like, all right, another Pepsid, I take it. I'm sitting here going, now I'm starting to get a little bit worried because at this point, I'm like, I never really had heartburn that felt like this, but at the same time, I wasn't really thinking I was having a heart attack. So then I went to...
Why would you?
No, I went to the washroom, put some water on my face again, looking in the mirror. I'm like, listen, man, you're fine. Relax. Come back in. Standing at my desk. All of a sudden, I got pain in my bicep, my left bicep, and it's burning. And I'm like, oh, man, it's burning in my arm. I'm like, I didn't even work out yesterday. This is just bizarre. Now it starts moving down. I feel it, actually, the pain moving down my left arm into my forearm, into my wrist. Now I'm starting to freak out. Google right away. And obviously everyone knows the symptoms. Everyone has read the symptoms for what a heart attack is. But nonetheless, I went on Google and I said, but I wasn't sweating. I didn't feel like my heart was racing. Nothing like that. Just pure pain. And it was like a burning sensation. Hop in my car. I'm right next to a Walgreens. Get into the Walgreens. Go in there. Grab a bottle of Bayer aspirin. I take 2 aspirins, a big bottle of water. I sit in my car, and I'm thinking to myself, is this happening? Come on, man. You're 36 years old. There's no way. Now, for years, I've suffered from anxiety from trading. It started at the beginning of my career. 21 years old, I was having, panic attacks. Not to the point where I pass out, but not like a Tony Soprano moment, but really just where I would just feel very panicky every time I would leave from trading. Obviously, I was losing all the money I had saved. I was struggling. I had gone through a lot at the beginning of my trading career, so I was always constantly kind of having anxiety issues. But years later, I kind of worked my way through that, worked out, did things, and it kind of like dissipated, but it never like really totally went away. At moments I'd have it, and I would just do like a very small meditation and it would go away. So I'm thinking to myself, at this moment, you're panicking again, man. Stop it. And then the pain just was pulsating. And I'm about a mile and a half, 2 miles to the hospital. What do? Boom. I zip down there, walk in the front door in the emergency room. I'm like, listen, I'm having chest pains. My dad had a heart attack, but he was in the 60s. I don't know. Look, this is just not right. I could tell you. They're like, okay, come on in. Blood pressure check, EKG, chest x-rays, everything. They take blood. I'm sitting in there calling my wife. And I'm like, listen, I'm at the hospital. I'm having chest pains. And she's pausing. She's like, okay, because she's heard me say I've had chest pains in the past because of trading and because I've had panic attacks. And so initially, no one's thinking this is a heart attack. She's thinking, okay, I'm on my way. Still at the moment, I'm not even believing it's happening, right? Because everyone's like, blood pressure's okay. It was a little high. Looking at everything, they're like, your chest x-ray's fine. Your EKG was no problem. All of a sudden, they come in the room, a doctor and a couple of nurses, and I just see them, and my wife is there, and we're looking at them. And they come in, and they're like, Anthony, we need you to put this underneath your tongue. And I'm like, okay. And I'm getting worried now. I'm getting worried now because I'm surrounded by several people in the hospital. Put it underneath your tongue. Okay, how's the pain now? I'm like, it's still there, but, now I'm just like, now I'm having anxiety. They're like, is the pain going away? I'm like, a little bit. They give me another one. Is the pain going away? I was like, yeah, you know what? It is. They're like, Anthony, your blood work, your enzymes are up. You're having a heart attack. And I just remember my wife just kind of like looking at me, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, I don't know, like, what does this mean? I don't even know what to say. Just complete.
You're in shock.
Blank feeling. And I'm thinking to myself, because of all the years that I've been doing this and kind of just like having those moments where like, you're going through like this stressful time. And then just in my mind, I'm like, you feel fine though, man. You're going to be okay. They're like, Anthony, we have to take you and we have to move you to a different hospital. And I'm like, why? They're like, you need to see a heart specialist immediately. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, I'm at a hospital. What are you going to move me for? Well, because I was at such a young age and because the x-rays and everything came out, I needed to go into a place where I could go in and get an angiogram immediately by a heart specialist. And they're the best specialists were at the hospital. It was like the sister hospital to the one I was at. Now my wife is, obviously freaking out. I'm like, just call my parents, tell everybody, my brothers, tell them nobody else. And I'm going to be at the hospital. I'm going to be fine. I get there, doctor, right away they put me into the room. I'm in the room, and young doctor, probably about 5-6 years older than me, comes up to me, touches my arm. He's like, hey, Anthony, how you doing, buddy? I'm like, good. I'm like, I'm nervous. I'm like, I don't know what. I feel I'm in an operating room. I'm like, what am I coming in here to do? He's like, you're not getting operated on. Don't worry. We're going to take a look at your heart. He's like, you are having a heart attack, but we're here and we're monitoring you. You're going to be okay. Now I'm kind of like,
what are you supposed to
thinking
say
to myself,
that?
okay, I trust you, man. Like I looked at the guy, like he looked at me. I was like, this is the right person for me right now because he was a young, in shape doctor, and he was just like, I'm going to take care of you. I go in there. He goes in. I'm in there and looking around. He's talking to me. Pulls it. They hit something in my wrist, and pulls it out. Takes his gloves off. Moves his eyewear up and maybe his mask up, and looks at me, touches me. He's like, "Talk to me, buddy. Talk to me." I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, he goes, "You have one minor blockage in one artery." He goes, "I couldn't even put a stent in it." He's like, "I can't find anything wrong with you." And I'm like,
Amazing.
relieved,
Amazing.
relieved. And at the same token, I'm thinking to myself, so I told him, I'm like, Doc, what does this mean? He's like, well, a couple of things could have happened. He's like, it could be that you had a spasm, and sometimes that'll happen to people that are under a great amount of stress. You know, he goes, heart attacks aren't necessarily always caused by people that have blockages. He's like, they could be caused in other ways. So that's why he was saying, talk to me. And I just told him, he's like, well, what do you do for a living? I'm like, Doc, I've been a trader my whole life. That's all I've done. He's like, well, Anthony, he's like, we're going to take care of you. He goes, I got news for you. You're going to be okay. We're going to keep you for a couple of days. This is a Friday. And he's like, you need to look at a lifestyle change. I'm thinking to myself, I mean, I feel even the relief right now. Just thinking of him saying that to me. I'm in the hospital 2 nights. I get out on a Sunday night. Dummy I am. I go back to trade on Monday. Katie, because I felt anxiety from not being there versus being there. When I was, and this is something that I've experienced throughout my entire career. When I'm trading, I feel calm. When I leave is when I always had the anxiety issues. So I was sitting at home and I was thinking to myself, having an identity crisis again. If I can't do this, what am I going to do? Who am I?
Right. So
of course I go in, traded a little bit, sat there just, being at my office. And then, a lot's changed since then, though. I can tell you that.
So how did it impact you right at first, like those first few weeks? And what happened?
Complete denial. I mean, I'm going to be fine. I'm trading every day again. Not nearly like I was. I could tell you that. But I was a little nervous to trade, but at the same token, I was going about it the same way I would normally do. I wasn't pushing myself a little bit, but, my wife was making me, different food and different things. I was on some medication and really just going about my life in a similar fashion. Not exactly the same, but in a similar fashion. And 2 months later, I'm right back in the emergency room. Chest pains.
Unbelievable.
And, of course, they call the doctor. I go in with chest pains. Anyone out there who's had heart issues in the past, if you go to the emergency room and you've had a heart attack, the minute they see you, doesn't matter if you say you have, a slight bit of chest pain, they put you in right away. So I'm right in there. Right. They call the doctor, comes in. I'm overnight again. Next morning I see him. He goes, Anthony, what did I tell you? He's like, you're on medication. There's nothing wrong with you right now. We're monitoring you. He goes, you need a lifestyle change. I'm like, Doc, this is not physical. I'm like, he's like, it is, but he goes, you are, he goes, I don't want to say you're causing this. I don't want to misstate what he is saying to me, but overall, he was trying to get me to understand that I can't push myself the way I was prior to this.
Mm-hmm. Can you remember what it felt like to hear lifestyle change?
I remember it because it was the first thing he said to me when when they were done looking at me, and he did say to me lifestyle change. That I remember specifically. And at the time, I was just thinking to myself, does that mean quit my job? What did that mean? I really I didn't have an exact answer for what that was because, to be honest with you, throughout my life, I've eaten well. I've never been a heavy drinker. I don't do drugs. I've always done, really pretty straight and narrow, and I have not been someone to really, I would say, abuse the body too much. So all I really did was, spend a lot of hours on charts and trade a lot. And, and I go back to what I don't think I ever had a moment in my life where, as a young guy, a young trader at 21 years old, starting to suffer from anxiety. For 3 years, I didn't make money. Finally, turned it around, made some money. Never really had a moment where I had looked back at what that pain that had caused me during those years. And then I was successful for a lot of years and then just had some amazing success. And then I had a pullback from that success. And that kind of rocked me a little bit because, I'm thinking to myself, this is, just counting the money, right? And when I had some slip-ups along the way and gave a nice chunk of change back, I even at that moment, I never had time to really reflect on the struggle from struggling to making some money to making a lot of money to then losing a lot of money. And then I fought back that and made some good money back and then kind of like coasted for a while. And then all of a sudden this happens.
Yeah, it strikes me that you say you never had time. I suspect we learned maybe you didn't make the time, and that was part of the lifestyle change your doctor was referring to. How did it go over the first, let's say, 3 to 4 months?
In the hospital twice. I mentioned the one 2 months later, I was back in there for chest pains, and I was back in the hospital again. And that was another moment where, I was having chest pains at my desk.
For a third time.
A third time, yeah.
I just want everyone to be clear.
As if I didn't learn my lesson
Anthony's
the first
back
2
in the
times.
hospital for the third time.
And calling my wife in the car, I'm like, it feels the same way it did last time. I'm playing these mind games. She's like, are you sure you're not overreacting? Because obviously she knows me. And the doctor had just got done telling us this was maybe after the second time. This was maybe within a month. I don't remember the exact timeline of it, but he's like, physically, he's like, you're doing really well. And I said, I feel the same way. I have to go in there. I can't take that chance, right? Go back in there, same scenario. After that, I go for an in-office visit with him, and he sat down with me and really just told me, he's like, I just can't stress enough, Anthony. I know that this is what you do for a living, and I can respect that, but you need to find balance. And I don't know if he used that exact words, but I think he did, because this guy he's a young doctor in shape, great guy. And he was just the right guy, not over prescribing me medication. He was talking to me and saying, you need to fix this. And it was what I needed to hear.
Mm-hmm. He was saying it was the result of stress, basically. And I know stress is an overused word, but that there was a way you were going about your life and your job in particular that really could be the only source of this, because it wasn't like there was any blockage.
Exactly. He's like he said, there was a minor blockage. It's something that we're going to watch. We're going to put you on medication for it. If you were a 65-year-old man who had blockages and we had to put a stent in and be having a different conversation, you're 36, you can fix this. Do your homework, get yourself, change your lifestyle. You go back to then. So from there, to be honest with you, I did it wrong for, I don't know exactly for how long, but it was well over, I would say, a year or two. Maybe even 3. I know it just seems insane. But,
really?
Well, what I did was I was starting to work out more, and I was eating better, but I was not necessarily eating, I don't want to say, I've always ate good, but I think I was eating good then, but not identifying specifically what meals were better for me and my body, meaning that sugar with coffee in the morning would cause me to have anxiety. Still did it, right? Because that's why I drank coffee. It's not going to cause me to have a heart attack. I continue to do it. Then I, at night, have a couple of cocktails. Thought that was a good way to unwind. Still did it, right? I didn't find the balance in diet. I spent too much time working out, maybe trying to get strong versus getting in better shape, getting healthier. So I started to read about yoga, meditation. Meditation I was doing along the way. No doubt I started doing that right away. A good friend of mine, he got me started on that. That did help. But the workout routine, instead of working out to gain like strength and doing things, I started to do more cardio a couple or maybe 2 or 3 years in, doing stretching, doing other things that all of a sudden I started to see a difference in my energy, the way I felt. And that was the outside of trading part. So there was it took me years, I would say, to figure out that balance in diet and exercise that fit me. It goes back to, I always say, everybody knows on the show, trading is personal, right? So I think, so is fitness and so is diet. And I didn't think that way right away. because I felt like I was getting a little better, but I still didn't feel great. And along the way, I also had to change my strategy. And a lot of people know me. I was a heavy duty scalper for a lot of years. I mean, it was nothing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was nothing for me to, come in and have, 200 minis on in the first, few minutes of the day, at least, and more.
And hold them how long?
Just scalping in and out. I mean, I would trade several thousand contracts
so.
for many, many, many years. I did that. And I just couldn't do that anymore because I felt, number one, I had fear that my health was going to deteriorate. I was not making as much money as I used to, and the amount of stress it was causing me was just not worth it. It was not worth the reward at that point. So I started to take the skills that I had, and I slowly had to go through a change of strategy and still be who I was, but find a way that I was more comfortable with, not going to be active all day long. I didn't need to trade that big anymore. And I really, to be honest with you, I'm the first to admit I wasn't making nearly the money I was before. A lot of it was spinning my wheels. So it was almost a wake-up call to help me make that transformation anyway, because as a scalper, I did great for a lot of years. It's who I was. 15 plus years. It was all I did. And it took me a couple of years to kind of get away from it and just scalping less, and just I felt maybe getting a stronger hand in the market. And I had to go through 2 or 3 years of really not doing much in terms of, P&L to kind of like figure it out again. And there you go, and eventually now I'm like,
You wouldn't have done that if it weren't for the wake-up call of a heart attack at 36.
No, because I'm stubborn. Because I felt that that's the way I made money all those years. Size was going to be the way I made money. That's the way I made money by just getting into bigger positions. I was a moments guy. Markets would be slow. I'd scalp small. Moments would be busy. I would trade big, scalp big, hold around a big core position. And that's just who I was, and I was going at it. I would go at it really hard all the time.
So where do other traders go wrong in this realm of balance and lifestyle, you think? I mean, what advice would you give your younger self? What advice would you give I have clients, I have guys in hedge funds who travel to Asia and travel to San Francisco and, travel around the country and or midnight calls all the time. And I'm constantly saying, look, just the sleep deprivation decreases your risk perception. But, they won't listen because they're 38 and they got tons of energy and they feel invincible. Now, what would you tell them?
When I look back, I think the number one thing that I didn't recognize, and we've said it a lot today, was balance. Because I didn't realize that the amount of pressure I put on myself from trying to be a successful trader, that journey to then making money and then going back to struggling again and just trading a ton of contracts all those years, never really recognizing that even though physically you're not doing something, it was physically hurting me. And I wasn't doing enough when I was not at my screen to balance out that lifestyle I had at my screen. So I would say with anything that you do, if you don't have balance, then there is no longevity in it. And so what good is it? I mean, I go back to myself. It's like, it's an interesting week for me too, because I had the heart attack on the week, actually the day before my 15-year anniversary of getting my first seat lease. So February 28th I remember getting the call for me to get my first seat lease, and I started trading March 8th, 1999. So it was my anniversary week. This is my 20-year anniversary of trading, and I look back at it and say I wouldn't have had a 20th I'm very blessed and thankful that I survived through my 15th, obviously from what happened to me, but I wouldn't have my 20th if that didn't happen to me because I didn't have balance. And now that I have balance,
Yeah.
I feel like I could do this 20 more years.
Right. Everyone undervalues what you're calling balance, undervalues the physical substrate from which we make decisions, undervalues rest, undervalues thinking about things other than markets, like knowing that your subconscious is actually working on your trading, even if you're watching a movie or reading a book. Like, people just don't appreciate how you can really make better decisions if you're not like trying to fight down the markets all the time.
I can't agree with you more. I look at the way I am now with my diet, my exercise routine. My energy level has never been better at 41. I've never felt physically better. I mean, obviously in my 20s, you feel like you're invincible, but I would say I feel better now at 41 than I did at 31. And I think that my mind, my focus is so much better now because like I said, I was always a good eater, but I didn't find a diet that really fit me. I would just eat what people told me was healthy. And I didn't go through and do the diligence and the homework to find the diet that was best for me. So just like I did with trading, I started testing myself. It's why I don't have any sugar in the morning at all. Like, I always felt it was caffeine that was making me feel that way. It was caffeine with sugar. So now I could have a cup of coffee and be totally fine. But if I put a teaspoon of sugar in it, I'm a different person.
Yeah.
It just is amazing.
Sugar is poison. Sugar is basically
So
poison.
yeah, I mean, and for me, I felt that like the way it made me feel. Just certain foods and certain things that I did. I mean, that's just one easy example. Like I found out how much caffeine I could handle, what I could drink it with. Same with my meals when I ate them. And I'm not saying everyone has to go out there and get crazy like I did, but I did do that because obviously for me, I needed the lifestyle change. The reason why I'm sharing this is because I want people to have longevity in this business. It is a big reason why I started the podcast. It's a big reason why I'm starting the TV show. And I've been hesitant personally to talk about those deep issues that I've had with me physically, with the heart attack and me having the anxiety for a lot of years. And I think it was just because I've been kind of scared to talk about it, really. I mean, because I've been scared to answer questions about it. But I reached a point in my life where now I'm so comfortable with where I am and comfortable that I could help people make better decisions through what I've had to go through, that for me, it's time to open up and just tell everybody, look, this is what happened to me, and I found balance, and I'm better for it. I mean, I said to you, Denise, in a different conversation, I said the heart attack was probably the best thing that happened to me, and I'm like, I don't know if that maybe sounds weird, and you were like, well, why would it sound weird? And for me, it sounds weird saying that because it's like, hey, man, you had a heart attack, and you think that's one of the best things that's ever happened to you? Because today I'm the best I feel I've ever been. And it's that's the reason why I say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes perfect sense. And oftentimes the biggest challenges turn out to be really our biggest gifts. It's very hard to know that when, you're wondering if you're dying. But, I mean, people say that, over and over and over again. The things that happen that seemingly are out of your control that are the most, alarming and concerning turn out to be, years later, big benefits.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, like I said, this is year 5 that this has happened to me. It's the 5th anniversary, we'll call it. And
the day you said February 27th, and today we're recording this on February 27th.
Exactly. I know.
I think people will be shocked to find out, of course shocked to find out you had a heart attack at 36, but that you had panic attacks and anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Like, people would look at you and think, oh, that happened to me, but it never happened to Anthony.
No doubt. I mean, and it was, I was 21 years old when they first started happening to me. And it was just, and I fought that for years. and never sought for help for it. I did it. I would buy books on anxiety in cash. I didn't want anybody to see I'm buying it with a credit card. I mean, it's just insane. But because I was just really, chicken about it, and just would, the people that knew me, I mean, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, my parents are like, Tone, everyone calls me Tony. I know everyone knows me as Anthony, but they're like, Tony, you're fine. They're like, what? I would just stand up and be like, and they'd be like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I just would have a panic attack. And I just go back to it. It would never happen while I was trading. So I never related it to that. But I'm losing money. By the time I'd be home, we'd be sitting there just watching TV. All of a sudden I just would be panicking. And I just have no idea where it would come from.
If anyone doubts that your subconscious is working on things when you're watching a movie, there's the evidence.
Yeah.
Because while you're trading, you're focused on the thing that you're doing. It's when you're not trading that the emotion you're not recognizing can kind of break through. We can't turn back time and figure out if you'd taken the other train of really trying to get underneath those panic attacks at the time. But, to my way of thinking about it, whatever was causing that, ultimately manifested itself physically. More physical. I mean, panic attack is physical, right? But, in chest pain and a heart event of some sort. What's your day like now? We don't have that much more time, so can you talk about, we had a sense of what your day was like 5 years ago, but what's a day like for you now?
Well, a typical day for me now is, it's very different from what it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago is just wake up, do all my trading homework. I actually started the night before, trading homework in the morning, read the news, do all of that, get ready. The bell would ring and I'd be trading. Even before the bell would ring, I'd be trading. Mm-hmm. And nowadays I ease into my day. That's the way I look at it. I wake up and I make sure that I get X amount of sleep. So if I go to bed late, I might wake up a little bit later. To me, sleep has become very important. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I make sure I get a certain amount, at least 7 hours a night. And then I wake up in the morning. First thing is walk the dog. And I use that as basically my morning meditation. I look through the eyes of my boy and how he views the world, right? Because he's so happy to be out there. And it's just really it's that really fun part of my day where I'm outside just walking around with the dog and seeing some of the neighbors or whatever. No phone or anything. And then I come back in and I make his food. Mm-hmm. Yep, I make his food. And then I make myself a healthy shake. Pretty much eat the same thing almost every day. Oats, spinach, coconut water, blueberries, and maybe once in a while I'll throw a banana in there or maybe dark cherries or something like that. And while I'm having my coffee, I'm looking at the markets, reading news, catching up on any blog posts that came out the night before, really kind of developing a theme as to what's happening in the market. And then I look at my charts. What do my technicals say? Do they agree, disagree with the theme that I'm reading through the news, through the blog posts? And as I've said before, I'm not scalping anymore. So I look to see what the first hour of trade is doing. And during this time, it's really just reading, watching, looking at Twitter, seeing what's going on. And then if a trade develops, it does for me for that day. So then that's my morning. After the first hourly close of any market I'm watching, from treasuries or the S&P, I have to see those first hours. And if there is nothing, then I go about my day. I don't, I really kind of don't look back because my day is now, my trading is so set on how that first hour goes that if there is a trade set up, I traded. If not, I've learned to just move on. In the past, obviously, I would force it and I would try to do something every day, but I don't do that anymore. So I'm extremely patient when it comes to that and waiting for my setups. And as I've mentioned, it's just been great for me, not only with my own physical being, my mental being with being a trader. Like I said, I feel I could do this for 20 more years. I feel like I could do this for the rest of my life, because I finally built in something that there is long sustainability with me, from the mental side, from the physical side, and from the trading side. I've seen great results in my new strategy. So that is how the morning goes. Now the rest of the week can change. It fluctuates. It could be depending on what's going on. Obviously, everyone knows I do Futures Radio Show and Futures TV Show. So a lot of my week is front loaded with Futures Radio Show. So a lot of that stuff I book after the morning. So I'm recording a lot in the afternoons on Mondays and Tuesdays. And at the end of the week is now Futures TV Show. So I'm traveling for that. So my schedule is pretty busy when it comes to that, and a lot of prep in between there. But along the way, I segment each day of the week specifically to an exercise routine. I think one of the key points that I want to make is, since obviously this heart attack happened to me, is I didn't start dieting. I didn't start, a crash diet, I should say, something like a keto diet or the South Beach diet. I didn't do that. I didn't go and start doing some crazy exercise routine. And the reason why I talk about that is because I didn't want to do anything that I couldn't build into my lifestyle that was sustainable. So once again, for me, I had to build it into, basically build a good habit into my daily routine. So the food that I'm eating, healthy on a consistent basis. And then when you go out, you reward yourself with having the cocktail, having the steak, having something that is that you don't eat in your normal everyday life. I've devoted a lot of time and research in the foods I eat on a regular basis, which nowadays is primarily vegetarian. But once again, it doesn't mean I don't eat meat, because I still do. If I go out to a great restaurant, I'm absolutely going to have the steak. I just don't have it as much as I used to. I basically earned the right to be able to go and reward myself at that moment. And my exercise routines are consistent. Monday is X day, Tuesday is X day, and then I throw in a golf day at least one day a week. So I'm doing something outside, and it's very consistent. So I know which day represents. All these different things I have put into place, so they're part of my routine, part of my lifestyle.
Yeah, well, I like to say the human body is like a car, and, it needs maintenance, and all the pieces are necessary for it to work well. And I think of making risk decisions as like the car moving forward. So you're tending to the machine of your decision making, as well as obviously the machine of your life, because you got that wake up call. And, I want to say, I think it's great that you finally decided to talk about it. Forgive me for saying finally. I think it's interesting. I think guys in particular feel they need to hide anything that might be perceived as weakness. It's usually not really weakness, but you might have paid an interesting price for that. But now, I think you're really to be congratulated in trying to share that message and prevent this from happening to other people, as well as give them a good reason to think about how they balance their time and their life better. So, I'm honored that you asked me to facilitate you speaking about it.
What can I say, Denise, except thank you so much for making it so easy for me and helping me through this. I've been holding it in for 5 years, waiting for a moment to talk about it. And for everybody out there listening, hopefully my story will help some of you in creating balance in your life, in your trading. And, that was my goal with this, and is to share my story so you obviously could understand me and what I've gone through, and to hopefully help any of you that are struggling with creating balance in your life. So, Denise, what can I say? Thank you again. Thank you so much.
I'm honored. Thank you, honestly. And, congratulations on I'm 5 years later and feeling even better.
Yeah, this is the best I've felt in a long, long time. And one last thing to all you traders out there, thank you again. Thank you so much for listening. And I want to let you know my door is open. Email me, message me on social media. I'm here. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you for listening to Futures Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for myself or my guests, please visit futuresradioshow.com and sign up to be a premium member for free. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes.